Setting up a press for a relief block. So we're looking at a Charles brand etching press here, and kind of looking at the different parts here. So here I'm zooming in on the calipers, which you need to be aware of. So there's calipers on the left and the right. And so when we're setting this, we want to make sure that the pressure is nice and even on top of our block when things run through. So the first thing that I am going to do here is I need to bring over my relief block, and a couple things about safety. Whenever we're cranking the press, you never want to have your fingers anywhere near the drum here, the upper drum, because your fingers can get pulled in, and I like to compare it to what happens if you explode a hot dog in a microwave. So you just avoid that, and then also avoid the edges. Don't put your hands in any of those spaces in between, because also hot dog reference, you could sever a finger by it pulling through and this getting caught in between the press and the bed itself. So the press will always, the bed will always crank in the direction that move in the direction that you're cranking. So if I'm cranking towards myself there, the bed's gonna be moving towards me. And then if I crank the other direction, you'll see that the bed is moving in the direction that the crank is moving. So also important. So just remember, keep your hands free of the press bed the whole time. You might have to give it nudges on occasion, but you should always do that from the back, never from the sides, or never by putting your hand near the drum. So to set my pressure, I need my block. I have a couple press leads, which is important later for printing. And what I want to do first is back off my pressure left and right on those two calipers that I was talking about, so that the bed is up, or the drum is up way higher than I need it. So just remember the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey rule. So if I turn it to the left, right, the bed is the drum is gonna raise. If I turn it to the right, the drum is gonna go down. We have calipers left and right, so you should be rotating them at the same time, roughly. Otherwise, it puts a lot of pressure on the springs of the press, and it can cause some damage to the press itself. So if I rotate the right side, then I need to move over to the left and rotate it at about the same rate. So it's better if you can do this at the same time as you see me doing here. But if you have to, turn it in small increments left and right, raising them both up at the same rate. So I'm matching up the numbers on the caliper, and I'm raising them up, like I said, higher than the block. So I want it up significantly higher than it needs to be. I have the block about centered on the bed, and I'm gonna move the bed pushing from the back so that it is underneath the drum. The block is under the drum, right in the middle. And now I'm gonna tighten that snug, both left and right. You can see how I'm only turning it about half a turn each time before I kind of even it out left and right. Like I said, make sure that you're rotating these at about the same rate. And then the numbers on the caliber should match. So depending on if the press has been calibrated recently. So I'm gonna test that pressure, and I do that using a piece of newsprint or a piece of paper, and I'm gonna be looking for embossment. So I'm gonna back this off. In this case, I would be printing my relief block with only newsprint, no backing. Sometimes we use chipboard, sometimes you use the pusher blanket for intaglio, but in general, like, you can print with just newsprint or something flat and solid like chipboard. So I use the little chunks of linoleum that are at the same height as my block, just so that the bed doesn't kick back the linoleum at all. It hits those little blocks and it'll kick those back first. So those are set on the left and the right of the press to absorb the pressure first instead of my block. It's more important for the printing than it is necessarily for testing the pressure. So I'm slowly rotating this down a little bit until I get it to the tightness that I want. So you saw I did about a quarter turn there, and then ran it through. I look at the embossment on this paper. If the embossment looks similar left and right, then I know it's good. You can see I backed off the pressure. It was a little too tight. Maybe the paper was wrinkling up a little bit here. And then I know it's good for proofing. I'd also do this, once again, I said, sometimes you use chipboard as backing or something flat like mat board. So I'd have to change the pressure because of the thickness of the chipboard. So in this case, I need to back it off. And as you can see, I'm backing it off. And then I'm gonna go through those pressure tests again after doing that and make sure that that embossment is still the same. Once again, noting, you see my hand isn't on the edge of the press anywhere when I'm doing this. Once again, testing the pressure. I'm gonna look at the embossment, backing off. So generally you'd read the numbers on the press, on the calipers. I'm pointing out that they're matching here. With the number on the horizontal caliper over the vertical caliper. So you really need to see the press calipers to notice that, and unfortunately I didn't get a shot of this in this video here. So you can't see those exactly on this, but the numbers should match on both left and right. So testing the pressure, eventually you can get this down to just the way it feels. With relief, it should be snug, but not so tight that the bed kicks at all. You should definitely feel it hit the block, but you don't want it so tight that it's gonna fill in the little details on your image when you've inked something up. So actually I do show the caliper. So I would read this as 5/4. Now 10/4, so I'm counting the 0 and the lines up, and then when I look over here, if I'm tightening up my pressure or loosening it up, it should read the same. So I want to make sure that it's at the 10/4 notches. So you kind of read it like a fraction, almost a weird fraction. And then after that, it's the same principles that apply depending on the different type of blocks. So before I had linoleum, now I have a piece of MDF. I would go through the same process for anything that's thicker. So I'm backing that pressure way off so that the block fits underneath, tightening it up left and right at the same rate, testing the pressure, have my press leads. Once that feels good, then I'd know I was good to go with this block as well.